Hello folks, today's a short and sweet video about something I won, but still had to pay for. Grid Studios is a company that makes rather unique home decor products only geeks like myself could love, showcasing the internal organs of our favorite gadgets in lovely wall-hanging frames. To generate excitement, the company offers giveaways that ship you their most highly coveted product for free if you win, but they only pick 2 winners among thousands of entries. Naturally, I failed to win any of their giveaways, but I ended up on their mailing list and they later told me about a new contest where I could possibly win the chance to buy their incredibly popular Grid 1. I entered that contest and was surprised to learn that I was one of the 120 winners. The Grid 1 showcases the original iPhone 2G that Steve Jobs so magically introduced to the world way back in 2007.
A phone. Are you getting it? These are not 3 separate devices. This is one device, and we are calling it iPhone.
The electronic heart and soul of that very first iPhone is beautifully presented in the Grid 1. It's by far their most popular model and has been marked as being sold out for months as a result. Thankfully, I didn't have to pay a whopping $699 for mine, but I did have to pay the princely sum of $399 due to the rarity of high-quality iPhone 2G parts and, of course, due to the high demand for the Grid 1. On the upside, they did include the international shipping for free, and it seemed they packed it quite well. So, let's unbox it. There's a single layer of bubble wrap surrounding what feels to be a box inside, and they very thoughtfully put these black plastic corner protectors on it. It came through the international mail largely undamaged, although there's a little tear here, and this corner over here is a bit cracked. The label suggests it was shipped from Taiwan to my address here in Japan, which is odd because the tracking information shows it originally left Shenzhen, China, then shipped to Hong Kong, then was sent to Japan. Even more confusingly, the emails I received from Grid Studios always show a West Covina, California address at the bottom, leading you to believe they're based in the USA, which is not accurate. Well, anyway, let's cut this thing open and see what all the fuss is about. Well, let's see. I think these are some kind of special plugs for the walls to hold it on. Got a couple pieces of black foam. Oh, nice card of some sort. 15% off your next order. And ooh, this is interesting. Looks like stamped wax around the ribbon. And here it is. I put on the glove so I can take off this little protector here, and the trick is this is actually not glass. People say it's glass, but it's actually plexiglass. It's acrylic and not actual glass. So to get this off, we have to push down and then pull on it. So we'll go ahead and see what's inside this black envelope. On the back we've got, looks like wax. I guess the seal was pressed into it, so I'll open it with my trusty katana letter opener from Japan. Here are the contents. First one is a picture, I guess, of the assembly process. And this one, it's very matte color, feels a little bit rubbery. I guess it says you can win artwork. I'm not really sure. Limited edition artwork. Then this one says scan the QR code to win limited edition frame of the iPhone. Isn't that what we just have? I'm not really sure what that's for. So basically they gave us a nifty fold out that takes us through the iPhone timeline from the 2G in 2007 all the way through the various iPhones up until the year 2020. Well, I must say it is quite impressive. They did a fine job on choosing quality parts, or at least they cleaned it up well. I've read that they use an ultrasonic cleaner. Make sure that all the parts are perfectly clean. However, if we zoom in, we can see some specks and dirt particles that shouldn't be there for the price of this thing. The reflections are bothering me, so I'm going to open this up. Seems like we can just slide these guys out of the way. Hopefully we can get him out here without doing any damage. It's pretty light. Now I can take my blower and focus on getting some of this dust off. I guess we could say it happened during shipping, but I don't know. One other thing I noticed is that around the edges there's this, looks like some of the paint of the frame rubbed off, and unfortunately I can see a little bit of this at the top when this is put back into the frame. For the price that you pay for this particular one, that's really not very acceptable. You can see it on all of the corners, unfortunately. It's important to keep in mind these are used parts, so you might see some scratches on this. This doesn't annoy me. Dust annoys me, but scratches like this really aren't that noticeable. Not all labels are very helpful. For example, circuit board and circuit board. Wow, as if we couldn't have figured that out without the label. Consider how small the iPhone 2G is compared to my now ancient iPhone 7. My iPhone 7 is taller than this top case and this bottom case, with what looks to be about a 1 centimeter gap in the middle. They didn't include the LCD because it would have been black due to the lack of power, but the icons are pretty nice, and of course the happy face down there is a nice touch. Even though Grid Studios labels both of these big boards as main board, this is the one of interest. Here's the Samsung ARM processor, 90mm technology running at 412 MHz that Apple used prior to their own silicon. Technically this is the A1, but they're not calling it that because, again, that was before Apple started making their own chips. Those of you who prefer the metric system aren't going to be too pleased with this. It's clearly in inches for US buyers. The most important consideration is how the Grid 1 looks on your walls. And the good news is it looks great just about anywhere you place it. Especially the room you often use your iPhone. All said, I really like the Grid 1 and I don't regret my purchase. Now, of course, it's not without its glaring flaws, so I'm going to rehash the good and the bad for you so you can make your own decision. First, at a $399 US price point, I should not have been forced to open this up to blow out tiny black dust particles. No. Next, the white paper that labels all of the internal parts, there should not have been a black smudge around the outer edges. That's just not acceptable in my opinion. I could see it when the product first arrived. I opened it and adjusted it, and for the most part I can't see it anymore, but still. They clearly put it together too quickly. The paint wasn't quite dry. It got on the outer edges. They need to adjust their assembly process to ensure that that doesn't happen. Next, the measurements are in inches. And as an American, that's not too big of a deal for me, but it may be for many of you. And I really think they should offer a build-to-order option for people who want the metric system. And even though most people in metric system countries can understand like diagonal sizes of screens, like 27-inch TV or something like that, you don't want all of the measurements to be in inches. And so having the option to get a metric system set of numbers would be appreciated by the majority of the world, I would think. Next, not all of the labels are helpful. Circuit board, I mean, no, that doesn't satisfy a geek like me. And let's face it, geeks like me are the only people who are probably going to want something like this. Next, my customer support experience was a little bit lackluster. It's not a big complaint, but I just want to tell it to you because I think it'll be important for you. After purchasing, I received the standard automated thank you for your purchase email. It mentioned the amount I paid and all of that, but it said nothing about when it might ship. And so I waited one business day and I wrote them an email back because they hadn't sent me anything after a day to say, could you please tell me about when it's going to ship? And then I waited another business day, but there was still no reply from them. And so I wrote them back to remind them that on their website it says, we will reply back to you within one business day. And they hadn't done that, and I asked for more information about shipping. Unfortunately, I sent that follow-up email on a Friday. They're closed on the weekends. I had to wait Saturday, Sunday, and then on Monday they sent me a reply, but it was an automated reply. No human touch, no sorry for keeping you waiting or anything like that. It was just the answer I needed, which was the tracking number. Now that satisfied me, and that was great. I don't need apologies or anything like that. But I'm telling you this story for you, because if you buy from Grid Studios and you have a problem to where you need you need human interaction, I have no idea how they're going to respond because I never talked to a human being. I realize they're a Chinese company. Despite what they say about West Covina, California, they are based in China. Their primary language is Chinese, not English. They want to reduce the amount of English interactions with their customers. I realize that. But I just have no idea how they're going to respond to you if there's a customer support issue. Lastly, on the negative side, this is the most formidable problem at all. I don't know if you can buy it. I mean, you can't buy it unless you either win it or you win the opportunity to buy it. You probably are not going to win it because they only pick 2 people every time out of thousands of people. And maybe you might be like me and be one of the lucky 120 people who have the opportunity to buy it, but still, if you're not able to buy it, my video is kind of wasted on you. And so that's really the biggest problem at all. Now, for the good side, the good points are fewer in number than the bad points, but I think they outweigh the bad points. And first of all, I like the frame. The frame is matte, which you might think is going to pick up fingerprints, but so far it hasn't. Unlike the M2 MacBook Air Midnight, which if you've watched any YouTube videos on that, you know it's a fingerprint magnet. This, I wouldn't call it a fingerprint magnet because I just don't notice my fingerprints on it, even though it's matte. Very minimalist. It's very Johnny Ive. The iPhone itself is minimalist in design, you know, and I like that. I don't need anything fancy. If you have a fancy frame, it draws your attention to the frame instead of the contents. This needs to be a minimalist frame to keep your attention focused on what's inside. So I appreciate that very much. Now, the front transparent part, some of you may think, well, shouldn't that be a negative because it's not real glass? Well, no. In my opinion, I think it's a positive point that it's plexiglass because it makes it lighter to ship and it makes it less likely that it's going to break during shipping. I mean, think about it. It went from China to Hong Kong, Taiwan to me, probably the same thing for you. And if your local postal system gets a hold of it, like USPS, those guys will probably kick it around. So having it less likely to break is a good thing, and that's why I'm going to give it the thumbs up on the positive side. And the last point is the greatest point of all that really nullifies all of the negatives that I mentioned today, and that is this product showcases the product which led Apple to become the $2+ trillion megamoth company that it is today. I mean, without the iPhone, where would Apple be today? Do you think Mac sales alone would have kept them alive all these years? Probably not. And as you know, the iPod is no longer sold. So, in my mind, the iPhone 2G is the modern equivalent of the 1976 Apple I. Now, I'm not suggesting that the iPhone 2G should be priced into the stratosphere like the $300,000 or higher Apple I commonly is sold for, but still, the Apple I is, it's rare, which is different than the iPhone, I realize, but still, without that product, Apple would not exist. The Apple I I'm talking about. And in like manner, without the iPhone, Apple probably wouldn't be alive today, and if it was, it wouldn't be thriving today. We're almost on the 14th generation of iPhone, folks. So the iPhone 2G, it not only changed Apple, but it changed the world. And that's why I think out of all of the products that Grid Studios sells, this is the one, the Grid one. But that's just my opinion. Let me know down in the comments. Would you pay $399 for this, assuming you had the opportunity to buy it? Or would you do something else, like try to make one using parts of your own? I'm skeptical if you can do that for a cheaper price, because let's say you have an old iPhone 2G that you purchased back in the day. If you actually used it, it's probably going to be scratched up. And if it's scratched up, are you really going to put it on your wall? Also, you have some sentimental value attached to that. Are you really going to break it apart? And does it power on? Or could it power on with a new battery? And if so, I know for a fact you're not going to break it apart and put it on your wall, and you shouldn't. So you might say, okay, well, I'm going to go on eBay and find some pristine parts that'll rival what you get from Grid Studios. You know how eBay is. There's sharks everywhere. A lot of things are really overpriced. And if you can even find pristine parts like Grid Studios prepares for you, By the time you buy those, you buy a frame, you create the artwork to print out the white paper and all of that. Remember, time is money. So your time to create all of this is valuable. Would it really be less? Would your total cash outlay be less than $399 for this Grid 1? Again, I don't know. But I'd like to hear your thoughts down in the comments section below. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and please subscribe if you'd like to see more content like this. I'd also like to thank 3 wonderful people before I close this video who supported this channel in the month of August. First of all, I'd like to thank Jeffrey. I'm not going to mention his last name because he didn't give me permission. Next, I'd like to thank Mauro Acciaccaferri, who's a monthly supporter of this channel. And lastly, I'd like to thank Gavin Maxwell, who's made several donations to this channel over the past few months. Thank you, gentlemen, for supporting this channel, and I'm certainly going to give it my all to create great content for you in the future. Thanks for watching today, folks, and I wish each and every one of you a wonderful day.